Hello guys and gals and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be going over another one of the unique items that's been changed in Season 5 or 1.50 as it is right now. And this is the Ring of the Ravenous. The Ring of the Ravenous was a unique that was added in Season 4. It wasn't really like particularly the most amazing thing in the world. But they've beefed it up significantly from its previous version, and let's go over it today. So first off, you get 10% resistance to all elements, like most rings, and then it also has Shadow Res on there of 10%, which is just the rings just generally tend to have like an additional res that's not all res. For this one, it happens to be Shadow. It does have 9 to 11% critical strike chance, which is definitely kind of nice for a bleed build, because obviously bleed builds are based on critical strike chance for the barbarian, but not for other classes. This has to do with, by the way, the way that Gushing Wounds work. So Gushing Wounds is when causing an enemy to bleed, you have a chance equal to your critical strike chance to increase the bleed amount by 70% times and also increase by 100% of your critical strike damage bonus. So in other words, if this particular ring if you don't think that critical strike chance is important for your bleed build, then you probably aren't using Gushing Wounds, because Gushing Wounds is how this converts. So the higher your critical strike chance, the better the chance that you're going to get this additional multiplier, and the additional multiplier is obviously going to help you. So I got like, what, 29.5, and then I got 39% critical strike chance with the ring. You probably want to get that up even higher, honestly, with this particular build. Now, we also have vulnerable damage, 60% vulnerable damage, which again fits into the mantra of this particular build. So if you take a look at the hemorrhage ability, says your bleeding damage is increased by 15% times of your vulnerable damage bonus up to 45% times. So as you can clearly see, this particular ring with a 60%, up to 60% multiplier or vulnerable additive bonus there is going to help out our hemorrhage. So as you can see, we went up from, I think it was like 8% to 15%. Obviously, you want to get this capped. That's basically how this works. So you want enough vulnerable damage to cap out your hemorrhage node, and this gives you a little bit of what you need. It also gives you plus bonus to Rend, which of course is important because this particular item is based around Rend. Although I do not believe that Rend is required, but we'll test this. I have level 12 Rend at the moment, specifically through the plus the skills and plus 5 in the base skills, and then also, of course, if we're using the ring, we go up even further to, 14. So level 14 Rend, which is certainly not terrible. And as you can see, it says I'm doing 395,699 bleeding damage over 9.4 seconds. Now, Rend's bleed is specific to the Rend ability, but because of the way that this item works, it actually helps us do more than that. We also get 1 to 2 brawling skills, which is very nice, because this one is based around brawling skills, and that's going to be things like leap, it's going to be things like kick, it's going to be things like charge. Those items, those are going to be our brawling skills, and this item is really kind of based around brawling skills, not really around Rend itself, which is rather interesting. On top of that, it also has a bonus to Rend's duration. So Rend's duration is increased by 4 to 8 seconds, which is going to be a pretty massive duration increase on the Rend. And then also it says damaging enemies with your brawling skills apply 2 stacks of Rend's bleed, and this can only happen once every 1 second. Now, it used to only be 2 to 4 seconds, so they doubled the duration increase, and it used to be only once every 4 seconds, so they have more than multiplied this many, many times. I was actually trying to figure out exactly how much the multiplication is from the previous version, and it's very difficult to even understand. Like, I mean, if you think about it like this, there's 2 stacks, and they added 4 seconds for each stack by increasing it from 4 to 8. So they basically doubled the extension of the duration of both stacks. On top of this, they also allowed you to make a lot more stacks per, well, time period. So before it was only it was only 2 sets of stacks every 4 seconds. Which we can just divide that down to the lowest common denominator. So let's say 1 set of stacks every 4 seconds, because they're both 2 stacks. And then we also have in the new version, it's 1 set of stacks every 1 second. So it's basically 4 times as often and double the duration, which is kind of hard to calculate. I mean, you could multiply that by 4, and you could say that it's like 32 seconds longer than it would be, or something. I don't really know. It's it's not really something I'm the greatest at, is quantifying the increase here, but you can definitely see that we have double the duration and quadruple the number of stacks that could potentially be applied within that same duration. And this, of course, is rather interesting. We also have a flavor text here. The flavor text says, "The hunger, it starts so small, like a tickle in the back of your mind. You believe the lie that you still have control until you're so far gone you can't even recognize yourself, Variana." Now, with this particular item, we're going to play around with this a little bit. We're going to see how this works. So we don't actually have Rend on our bar. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kick this guy. And as you can see, when we kicked him, we immediately applied a bleed stack, 2 bleed stacks of Rend to the training dummy. And they have a particularly long duration. So we can do this as many times as we want to, of course, because the way that the ring works is it's going to apply a Rend bleed stack every single time we hit them with a brawling skill. So we can do things like this. We can do leap. We can do kick, leap, ground stomp, leap, kick, leap, kick, leap. And as you can see here, we now have a 388,000 damage bleed currently on the target just from leaping. We haven't actually attacked the target at all. We haven't put any bleeds on there. We just used our brawling skills. And this is going by things like the aspect of perpetual stomping, which allows you to reset leap's cooldown by kicking or ground stomping, which basically means that we can spam leap multiple times. Now, the interesting added benefit of this is, of course, because leap is a AoE ability, that means that we are, of course, making multiple monsters bleed at the same time, which is very interesting. And of course, if you did this properly with a nice rotation, it would probably look something like this. So you would probably go like this, start attacking with your main ability, then you would, of course, use Berserker's Rage. You would kick, leap, kick, leap, ground stomp, leap, kick, leap, kick, leap, and so forth and so on, and you would keep doing this rotation basically infinitely as you possibly could, stacking as much bleeds as you possibly can on the targets. And just as you can see, I'm already at 469,000 damage. This character is level 71, and although he does have some uber uniques, I mean, I'll give him that, he is missing most of the stuff that would make his character stronger, like, for instance, pretty much all the aspects, most of his Paragon board, and so forth and so on. And as you can already see, the Ring of Ravenous is doing quite well to apply those bleed stacks in short order. Now, of course, you can also use Rend itself. So if you want to throw Rend into the mix, you could, of course, be rending the targets as well. But, of course, Rend, one of the problems with Rend is it costs so much resource. So you're going to be burning a large amount of your resource to apply that Rend. And in my opinion, this ring is better off used in a different manner, which is by using the brawling skills. And I think that's the way that I would see this, is it's a brawling ring, not a Rend ring. It's a brawling ring that happens to apply bleeds that you can use to your advantage, and you should set up for brawling skills to fully take advantage of the ability to apply as many Rend bleeds as you possibly can while you're doing your general stuff. And the really cool thing is that a lot of these are AoE attacks. So if you take a look at the brawling skills, the leap ability obviously is a very nice AoE attack. Hits a rather large number of monsters and also restores some fury if you want to, or slows them down. Kick is also an AoE attack, but not quite the same as the rest. It's not a particularly large AoE attack, which is part of the issue. So when you kick monsters with leap, let's go ahead and put this back on. When you kick monsters with kick, you'll notice that it does actually apply, as you can see, the bleeds to multiple targets, but it's not quite as big of a radius as the other stuff. As you can see, if I can get monsters close enough together, they will all apply the bleed at the same time. Because of course, this is just the way that kick works. It's a very nice AoE kind of attack, but it's a small AoE, and it does some pretty interesting AoE damage. So the way that I say the Ring of Ravenous, which is actually rather interesting, is it applies a lot of AoE bleed effects for you that actually do some pretty significant damage. And through a rotation, you could definitely maintain a large number of these bleed stacks on the target. Assuming, of course, you get a much longer duration, because you would want the 8-second duration on the Ring of Ravenous. And of course, you would probably want the +3 Rend. I mean, honestly, a perfect ring would be great. And of course, upgrading it is going to make it even better and increase the damage further. I have as many points stacked into Rend as I possibly can. And as you can see, when I kick a target, I do about like 17k without any buffs whatsoever. So this is just like a flat damage added to the target. If I pull my points from Rend, so just as an example, and I do the same kick, you'll notice that it's not quite as much. It's only 14,000. So putting points into Rend does in fact increase that damage by quite a bit if you get multiple you got multiple stacks of Rend's bleed going. So it's definitely good to put points into Rend at the very least if you're going to be going this direction, but you don't necessarily have to use it, which is also kind of interesting. I've also been kind of curious if you could potentially use it for the multipliers and things like that, which you never freaking know. Let's do some testing real quick. So we're currently at 12 with this, so let's go ahead and kick. And we have 34,000 damage. Let's go ahead and kick again. So that's 115,000 bleed. That's not bad. 115,000, 122,000. All right, let's pull the 30% multiplier for the vulnerable. And kick twice. Of course, I kicked too fast. Hold on. There you go. Because it was only once every second, which is part of it. So you gotta count like 1 second in between. Let's do this. Let's do this one more time. So 1, 1,000, 2,000, 1. So as you can see there, definitely a lot less damage without that multiplier added on there. So if you're going to be doing this, you probably want to grab the multiplier, which does seem to affect the bleeds as they're applicated. So like, you want to just do it again. 1, 1,000, 2,000, 1, 1,000, 2,000. Definitely a lot higher once you have those vulnerable affixes on there, the vulnerable multiplier. You can definitely see the increase. And let's do another rotation real quick now that we have the increase here. So let's just go ahead and do a little bit of this. Let's just build up some multipliers here. All right, now we're just gonna leap. We're gonna kick. We're gonna leap. We're gonna kick. We're gonna ground stomp. And we're gonna leap. We're gonna kick. And we're gonna leap. And then we're gonna kick. And then we're going to leap again. And then we're going to kick. And then we're going to leap again. And then we're going to ground stomp. And then we're going to leap again. And then we're going to kick. And then we're going to, as you can see, this rotation doesn't really end at any point. It's definitely something that you can build almost infinitely through the aspect of the perpetual stomping, is that you basically have the ability to just continually just grind this out. And as you can see, I got like 600k damage there. Definitely something that it could be multiplied a lot more in the future. I need to get access to the Blood Rage glyph. I need to get access to, obviously, gems in my weapons. I need to get access to better aspects, and so forth and so on. And once I get this character set up, I think he's gonna be pretty darn OP. We're gonna play around with it, and we're gonna see. I'm definitely gonna work on the Gushing Wounds. Gushing Wounds was nerfed in 1.5, but I still think it's gonna be pretty good for this particular build because we're gonna be bleeding so many different things. And another thing that we're probably gonna do is try and focus on getting overpowers as well, which should be interesting. So we're gonna play around with that. I think that's pretty much it for this particular item. The Ring of the Ravenous. Definitely a interesting one that has been updated significantly. And could be really interesting to add into a build, especially if you're using a lot of brawling skills already. If you're a bleed build, if you're scaling bleeds, if you have the bleed passives, I mean, this is just another way to add even more bleeds into an already bleed-centric build, so not exactly terrible. It's also a really interesting way to add AoE bleeds, which I think is also very important here, because this means that you're, obviously, when you leap in, you make everything bleed. Functions really interesting in that regard, because, of course, there's a lot of ways that you could take advantage of damage reduction for bleeding. So, like, there's the one where you get a huge amount of damage reduction for every bleeding target nearby. And, of course, if you leap into a pack of monsters and they're all bleeding immediately, well, then get your damage reduction immediately, so that's not bad. Anyways, always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining my videos. And be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button if you enjoy the content, and keep your eyes out for future videos. I really appreciate it. And as always, keep watching.